Republican Utah Congressman Jason Chaffetz is a member of the House Oversight Committee. He chaired that hearing today. Congressman, thank you so much for your time. What answers were you hoping to get?
Well, hopefully we provided some clarity to families who are still grieving and just want some basic answers. One of the things that was out there was this idea that upon the crash, that the black box in this helicopter had somehow washed away in a flash flood. And it just doesn't sound plausible, right? Ends up that this Chinook helicopter runs on analog instrumentation, doesn't even have a black box. So again, we helped clarify, I hope, and provide some clarity to these families who want answers.
And I want to give you a chance to also clarify. There were some who criticized the fact that families themselves were not allowed to testify. I know you're talking about a big group of people. Why was that decision made?
We had the whole spectrum of families, some who want the utmost of privacy, didn't want us to hold a hearing. You had others that wanted an open hearing, and they wanted to ask the questions themselves. So what we said and tried to compromise is send us your questions. We will facilitate the dialogue with the Pentagon. We will have an open hearing. We've had many classified hearings, which unfortunately only members of Congress can attend. But I think it was the right balance, and I hope those families know that we dealt with it as sensitive as we possibly could, and yet still tried to shed some light on it.
I want to talk about a couple of the questions specifically that we've heard from family members. Doug Lamborn, whose son, Staff Sergeant Patrick, was killed in this crash, said he wanted to know why Afghans were not interviewed as part of the military's post-crash investigation. Did you get any answers on that point today?
I asked that specific question in the hearing of the Pentagon. They did not have a good answer to that. They agreed to get back to us on that, but we did not get a clarifying answer on that particular point.
Okay, another one. Charles Strange, the father of one of the Navy SEALs, Michael Strange, said he didn't believe the explanation from the Pentagon that the Taliban wasn't tipped off to the Extortion 17 mission, and that's the call sign, how this has become now to be referred to as Extortion 17. And there are many of these family members who have publicly said that they feel in some way the Taliban had gotten information from somebody who leaked information, and that's how they knew that this particular Chinook was coming. Any discussion of that?
I think it was a legitimate question, but if you look at the operation itself, it was actually a Ranger team that went in first, and then this SEAL team, primarily SEALs. There were Army involved in this, Air Force as well. But this team was actually not, they were the backup. And when they were called into service, they didn't know exactly where they were going to go until they actually went and took off. I don't think there was even an opportunity to tell the Taliban. It's horrific. It was awful. These people go into the most dangerous places in the world. But I don't see any evidence that somehow the Taliban was tipped off and they were prepared and what took out this helicopter.
So the families, many of them who are publicly speaking, they say that they've gotten inconsistent stories. They've been told things that there are discrepancies, they don't line up. Do you think they're getting any closer to having any kind of closure? Not that you can when you lose a loved one like this, but at least to get some answers that make sense for them.
Well, Shannon, that's really the reason we held the hearing today. Again, I think we clarified things about the black box, about the operation itself, about the so-called flash flood. The part that bothered me the most, I think, when actually the audience cheered, they're not really supposed to in the congressional hearing, what they did is when they had a ramp ceremony and had all the caskets there, they combined the Afghan and American service together. And what bothered me, I can't even imagine if my son was in one of those caskets, but I pled with the Pentagon to say, don't combine the services. When you have a fallen American hero under a casket, I don't want to have an Afghan trying to bless that body or say anything. Have a separate service. And I think the Pentagon got that message, and I know that every one of those families there agreed with that sentiment.
Well, we can never repay the debt, what those families have given up, and those men who gave their lives. Congressman Chaffetz, thank you for trying to help them get some answers.
Thanks, Jan.